Okay, let us start. The agenda for today's class is we're going to look at what are key value databases, and then we're going to take Redis, which is one of the key value databases. We're going to see an introduction to Redis. We're going to download and install Redis for Windows, and then we're going to take a look at a lot of Redis commands, and we're going to look at some of the data structures in Redis like strings, lists in today's class. We'll start with this very first question. What is a key value database? So as the name suggests, a key value database stores the data as a collection of key value pairs. So I have given some examples for key value pairs here. Here you can see the key is the name. Satish is the name given here, and this is the key, and the value is the phone number. So you see such a key value pair in telecom directories, right? And again, I have given one more example. Here Satish is the key, and this can be the score. So in online multiplayer games, you're going to have the key and then the value for the players. So again, here we're talking about sanitizers and then the product, so and the value. So here we are talking about the product, which is the key, and then the value for the product. You see such a scenario in shopping carts, right? You have products and then you have values, you have products and then you have values. So that becomes a key value pair. And it's not only a simple object like this, the values can also be very complex, like it can be a list of values or it can be a set of values. So a key can also contain or can be mapped to a data structure which can hold several values. So a value can also be a complex structure or a complex object. Another example is an URL can itself be a key, and then the entire web page can be the value. So when you talk about the value can be anything. It can be an image, it can be a video, it can be entire web page. So value can really be complex. So when you're talking about keys and values, there are two important things that we have to keep in mind. Key should be unique. So in a database, if you have a key, you cannot have another key with the same name. For instance, here you have the key to be Satish. You cannot have another Satish in your database. The key should be unique. The key is used for retrieving the value. So values can be anything. It can be a simple object to a very complex object, as we have seen. So I hope you all have understood what are key value databases. They are nothing but collection of key and value pairs. Again, when you are working with a key value database, there are two very important things you really worry about. That is commands. What are the commands used for inserting the key and the value, deleting the key and the value? So you have a set of commands that operates on the data, and you are going to learn about the data structures. The data structures come in place when the values are coming into place. What are the data structures supported by a key value database to hold different kinds of values? So let us take a look at some of the application of key value databases. As we have seen earlier, it's used in session management. Whenever you connect to a web app and a session is maintained, all the users' profile info and the session activity can be managed as key value pairs. In shopping cart, key value databases are used. Multiplayer games, wherein the scores of the users should be populated at a very faster rate and a very faster response is needed. That's when you talk about key value pairs and telecom directories. So these are some of the applications wherein key value databases are widely used. And let us take a look at some of the key value databases available in the market. So we have Redis, we have Amazon's DynamoDB, Oracle also has a NoSQL database, and InfinityDB and Aerospike, and we have a lot of other key value databases, but here we have just highlighted some of them, and I have put Redis on the top with the intention that we are going to learn Redis in today's class. Yeah, so this is like we are going to take a very closer look at what is Redis. We are going to learn what is Redis, and that's what is the meaning of that. So what is Redis? So all the content is from the Redis web page. Whatever I'm using is from the Redis website, And we'll take a look at the definition of Redis. Redis is nothing but an in-memory database, very important. And it is used as a database cache and also used as a message broker. A message broker is used for communication between two applications, the publisher-subscriber model. And as I told you, a key value data store will support a lot of data structures like strings, hashes, lists, sets, sorted sets. So these are some of the data structures supported by Redis, and we'll be learning some of the data structures here. And what are the advantages of Redis? It has an inbuilt replication. We have seen a lot on replication in our previous classes with MongoDB. So it supports asynchronous master-slave replication, and it also has other functionalities. It has transaction management support, and it has LRU eviction of the keys, and on-disk persistence. So we're going to look at the difference between what is in-memory and on-disk persistence in the coming slides. I'll be explaining that. And sharding is also supported in Redis. So it has the support functionalities of a NoSQL DB. The only thing is it is in-memory, and it also uses on-disk persistence whenever needed. So we look at what is this, what is in-memory database. So we have to know the meaning of that, because I told it's being used as a cache, so to know the meaning of in memory. So when you say a database is in memory, what we have learned earlier is whenever there is a database management system, whenever you have a database management system where it actually stores the data, it stores the data in the hard disk. So hard disk is where your data gets stored. When you talk about an in-memory database management system, the DBMS actually stores the data in the main memory. So the entire data resides in the main memory. So that is the basic difference, and this is the definition. The database management system stores the data on the computer's main memory. Everything remains on the RAM, and it's not on the hard disk. So what is the advantage of this? When I'm going to maintain the entire database contents on the main memory, it's going to have a very fast response. So when you think about multiplayer games, you see how quick the response should be, how quick you should get what your team members' scores are. So that's where in-memory databases come in handy. So you can ask me one question: what happens when there is a loss of power? Your entire data is going to be down, or it's going to be lost. That can be another important question. So what happens when we lose data? So they have this kind of architecture and that's what is called on-disk persistence. Let me explain that with a blank slide here. So you have the application that is writing and that's giving the data to the database management system. Normally the database management system maintains it on the hard disk, but in a key value database the entire data resides on the RAM. So you have the entire data here. So you can also configure the system to achieve on-disk persistence. That is, the key value database can also occasionally write the data to the hard disk. You can configure it. You can configure it such a way that the value, the data here can be returned to the hard disk. By that what we achieve something called on-disk persistence. Is that clear? Again, the languages supported by Redis supports a lot of languages, as you can see here, from C, C++, Java, so PHP. So you're going to code applications in one of the languages. You can very well use Redis as a cache or as your database management system. Again, I just went and explored who are the clients for Redis, who are using Redis, and I was able to see some of the famous names here: Twitter, GitHub, we have Stack Overflow, we have Snapchat. So we have a lot of big names using our Redis database. So now let us take a look at how to download, where to download and run Redis. We are going to look and see how to download and install Redis on the Windows platform. So I'm going to tell you how to go and install it on Windows 10. So we have to go to this GitHub repository. I have given the link here, and you have to go to the packages and you have to download this particular zip file that is available. So when you download this zip file, you'll be asked to save the file. You save the file in a folder and then you extract it, and then when you double click this particular folder, you'll be seeing the contents. Since I'm running a 64-bit OS, I'll be just going with the zip to 64-bit version here. And when I click on this 64-bit folder, I'm just going to get the contents, and here we have two things. One is the server and the client. We have to first run the server, so double click on the server and then the server is going to start. This is shown for your reference here. So first you have to run the server. The server will be by default listening in port number 6379, and after that what we are going to do is we are going to go and run our client. So after running the server, just click on the client, Redis CLI, and you're going to start your client. And we can go ahead and test whether a client is fine by just typing the command ping, and then you have to get the response as pong. So let me run the client and the server in my system so that you can see how to run Redis on Windows 10. So this is the folder where I have the Redis server. So I'm just going to first run the Redis server. As you can see, the server is up and ready. It's listening in port number 6379 by default. And after starting the server, we have to start the client. So our client is also up and ready. It is started. So how to test the client? We can just ping the server and we get the response back. So our client and server is up and ready for us. The other way around to use Redis is you can go to this interactive tutorial offered on the redis.io web page. Let me just show you. You just go to the Redis homepage. Let me show how to do that. So you can go and search for Redis in your Google, and then search for Redis. So you're going to get the Redis web page here, redis.io. You go to that particular web page, and then there is this option for interactive tutorial. Just click on this, and you can use this interactive tutorial to try all your commands. For instance, I can go and type ping here, and you can see I get a response from the server. So you can very well use your interactive tutorial for practicing some of the Redis commands. Okay, now let's take a look at all the Redis commands, and we'll be learning the commands by grouping them under various data structures. For instance, we'll be learning all the commands associated with strings, then we'll go to the commands with lists and sets, and then we'll be looking at sorted sets and hashes. So it's pretty simple, and it's a very easy database, and I think we'll be able to understand this quickly. So let's start off with the commands for strings. So we have a set of commands here. Let me go and explain one by one. The set command is used for setting a key and then a value. So you can set a key with a value using this command. Get can be used for using the key, so that when you say get key, it's going to fetch that particular value and return to you. So let me just go to my client here. Let me take an example. Say set, the key is name, and then the value is Satish. So I'm saying the key is name, value is Satish. So it has set. How to get? I just get key. So now when I say get name, I'm just able to get that particular value out. So that is the use of set and get. And you can also go and do this. Set, the key is Satish, the score is 20. So now 20 is an integer value here. Likewise, let's do something. Set Ramesh, the score is 30. Okay. So you can go and set values. If I want to get the score for Ramesh, get Ramesh. So get the key, it's going to return me the value. So that's pretty simple and easy. So now let's go further. Let's look at mset and mget. If you want to set a multiple key and value pairs, then I'm going to go with mset. For instance, mset Ram to 30 and Tom to 40. So I have a key value. So I'm able to set multiple key and multiple values at the same time. So let me go and show a demo of this. M set, say Ram is 20 and Tom is 40. Okay, that's it. So you can very well set a lot of multiple key value pairs using M set. M get, on the other hand, is used for getting the values by using multiple keys. For instance, I have specified a set of keys. It's going to fetch me all the values. For instance, here M get Ram Tom. We're going to see for Ram the value is 20, for Tom the value is 40. So that's the use of M get. And append, what append is going to do is it's going to append some value at the end of the key. For instance, I have append, the key is Satish, and then append hello. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the value associated with Satish and append this value at the end of the existing value. So let's go and take some examples here. Say if I say get key, what is the value? 20. So I want to append hello at the end of 20. How can I do that? You can use the command append, give the key Satish, and then give the value to append hello. So it is appended, and now let us go and get Satish. So when I get the key Satish, it's going to say 20 hello. So append is used for appending a value at the end of the existing value for a key. So that's pretty simple. We have finished append. Let's take a look at two more simple commands, increment and decrement. What is the use of increment? Say for instance, you have set the value for this particular user Satish to be 20, and when I increment, it automatically increments the value to 21. So it increments it by 1. So let's go and take a look at these scores. Say get Ram is in 20. If you want to increment it by 1, what I should do? INCR Ram. That's it. So you can see here it increments the value, that is for Ram, by 1. By default by 1. And if I want to decrement the score, DECR Ram, so it just decrements it back to 20. So that's the use of increment and decrement. By default it increments by 1 or decrements by 1. I hope you all have understood the commands. Let's move forward. Let's still look at some more commands. Increment by, say when I say increment by, say I can say increment the score of Tom by 4. I can give the count by which this particular value for Tom should be incremented. So let's go and take a look at this. Get Ram. Ram is 20. I just want to do increment by, give the key Ram 4. So now Ram goes to 24. In increment it was just by default by 1, whereas with increment by, the increments will be in the counts that we mentioned. If we want to decrement the score of Ram by 10, what I should use here is DECR by. So it's decrement by Ram score of 10. So now Ram's score has gone to 14. So that's the use of increment and decrement operators, and increment by and decrement by operators. The only thing you have to keep in mind is these things do not work on strings. For instance, set name to be Ram. So what is the value set for name? Ram. And if I just go and try increment Ram, you can see increment name. You can see here that it gives us an issue because you can't increment Ram by 1. It's not an integer value. So are you all fine with this? Are you able to follow this? Okay. So the next thing that we have to look at is set expiration. So what is set expiration? For instance, I set a particular value, say for instance set name to be Jeff. So for name key, I'm just giving the value as Jeff, and I can also set an expiration time for this key value pair. For instance, I can say set name 10 seconds Jeff. So this key value pair will be alive in my database only for 10 seconds. So let me just go and try that one. So it is set expiration time, and then you give the name and then you say for 10 seconds this particular key value pair should be live. So it is set expiration time. The name is the key, 10 is the seconds that this particular key value pair will be alive, and Jeff is the value. So if I say get name, it's nil because we have lost the 10 seconds. So let's again try this. Let me set expiration, and then key is name. The expiration time is 10 seconds, Jeff. So when I say get name, you can see Jeff is there. So how much time to live for name? So 4 seconds is left. When I say get name, you can see Jeff. When the time limit exceeds, it just throws you nil. So what does this set expiration means is you're going to set expiration, you're going to give the key, and then you're going to give the number of seconds this key value pair will be effective in a database. So after the time exceeds, what's going to happen is you will not be able to retrieve the value Jeff for this particular key. So what I've done here is for this particular key, I've set the value to be Jeff, and I said expiration time will be 10 seconds. So within those 10 seconds, when I try to get the key, it's returning me the value. You see here, I've used another command, time to live, that is TTL name. It says how many seconds are left for this value to be alive. So it says 4 seconds at this moment. And when I say get name, yeah, it fetches me because it's still at that life of 4 seconds. And after that 4 seconds elapsed, when I try to get name, it is nil here. So set expiration, set some time limit in seconds on how long that key and value should be active, or that value should be active for that key in our database. Now we'll look at the next command, set nx. Set nx, the definition is set the value of a key only if the key does not exist. For instance, let us take that we have in our database Tom having a value 14. So this is already existing in a database. And suppose if I'm going to give a command set nx Tom to 30. So if I'm going to just give this command, it's going to check whether Tom is already in the database. Tom is already there, so it's not going to go and change its value. Suppose if Tom is not there in our database, then what setNX is going to do is it's going to go and create the key Tom and set the value to 30. So let me go and show you a demo of this. Let us take the demo. Say get Ram. So let's take the demo. Get Ram. Ram has a value 14. If I just go and do set nx Ram 30, it's not going to change the value of Ram. Get Ram will still have it as only 14 because Ram was already existing in the database. Suppose let us try for something like set nx Chris 40. Chris is not existing in our database, so what it does is it goes and creates Chris and establishes the value 40. So set nx will work only when the key is not existing in the database. I hope that is clear for all of you. So now let us take a look at the next command, string length, a very familiar command. It just returns the length of the value for a key. For instance, let's say get name. Get name has got Tom. Suppose if I want to find the string length, how can I find it? strlen, and then you pass the key. So the string length of this particular value for this key is 3. So what string length does, it takes the key, finds the value and finds the length of that value and returns it. So that is the use of string length in Redis. So strlen returns the length of the value for a given key. I hope you're clear with all the commands, very basic commands and very easy commands to follow. So you can also parallelly work with me. You can use the Redis interactive tutorial, practice all these commands as we are learning them parallelly. So let me proceed further. Let's take a look at more of the commands that work with keys. What all we can do to the keys. We establish a key. Say we establish the key name as Tom. Now can we go and delete this key? Can we go and check whether this key exists? can we go and rename this key? This time to live is nothing but what is the time remaining for this key before it expires. We have already seen this demo of time to live with the setx command. Random key, randomly it retrieves one of the key from the database and throws the value for that particular key. And this keys pattern is very interesting. It talks about regular expressions. You can search for keys using regular expressions. We will be looking at some of the examples here. If you have already learned, I hope you all might have learned regular expressions in any one of your programming languages, and that will be very helpful for you to understand this particular concepts. So we'll start with deleting a key. So let's go and find and see how to delete this key. For instance, I have this key name. This is the key, this is the value. If we want to delete this, just del and then the key. Now if I just go and do get that key again, you see nil means there is no value for this particular key. So how you delete a key, you just give del name. Exists, it checks whether a key exists in the database. For instance, if I do exists name, it returns 0. It says the key doesn't exist because we have deleted the key. There is no such key in the database. So, and we have get ram, right? Ram is actually a key present in the database. So if we just go with exists ram, it will return me 1 saying that it's true, this key exists in my database. So exists returns 0 or 1. It's a boolean value. 0 means the key doesn't exist, whereas 1 means the key exists in the database. Rename, say I don't like Ram, I want to rename him to some other value, Mohan. So I can just use the keyword rename Ram and then give the new name Mohan. So now get Ram, it's nil, there is no key called Ram, whereas when I say get Mohan, now Ram has been renamed to Mohan. That's why we're able to get 14. Is that clear? Now let us look at this interesting thing, that is keys pattern. So what do you mean by keys pattern? Say I want to search all the keys like that start with T, that end with M, with one character in between. How can I find that? Or else I want to search for all the keys that start with T, that end with M, with many characters, one or more characters. So we'll go and take a look at all these things. We're going to just give them regular expressions, and then we're going to search for key patterns in our database. This is not really advisable while you're running this on the production database, because it's going to start searching. The database is a very huge size. This is going to start searching the entire database. So you have to be very cautious when you're using key pattern search on your database if your database is very large. So let me go and insert some values here. For instance, set Tom to 34, set Tim to 35, set room to 36. So now our challenge is how to fetch everything that's starting with a T and ending with an M and with an O in between. So when you're going to search for anything like this, what we are going to give is T question mark M. So it means search for everything that starts with a T, ends with an M, with a character in between, any character in between. So when I'm just going to search, say keys, and then I give the pattern T question mark M. So it's going to fetch me what? TOM, TIM. And TAM is already in my database, so I fetched everything. So now the next question comes. Instead of just one character, I want everything. Say it can be TOOM or anything like that, any number of characters here, whatever it may be. It should start with T and end with M, but any number of characters. For that we can give, how you search for that is you just give T star M. The star means any number of characters, and sometimes a character can be missing too, so TM is also getting returned. Let me show you how this one works. So if we just give keys T star M, it means return everything that starts with a T, ends with an M, and there can be any number of characters in between them. So it just returns everything. So all these things from my database. Let's go further. Let's understand the next pattern here. For instance, if I have if I just give T square brackets I O and then M, it just means fetch me Tim or fetch me Tom. If there is an I, if there is an O, it's going to bring those keys. If there is a key by name Tam, will this really fetch this? No, because A is not part of the list given here. So it's going to just find matches only given in the list. Let me go and explain that here. Keys. So I'm going to give T, and this character here should be either I or an O, and the ending character should be an M. So bring me all the keys that match this criteria. So it just brings Tom and Tim. It's not bringing Tam out. Please keep that in mind. And another very interesting thing, so I can also I'll just write it here. I can also give T in square brackets I and then M. What it means, bring me every character, every key starting with T and ending with M, but except I in between them. So it will fetch me Tom, it will fetch me Tam, but it will not fetch me Tim. So let's go and show this. Keys T, and then you have this exclusion symbol I and then M. It means fetch me everything except an I in between. So Tom, Tam is written, but Tim is not written because we are excluding I between these two characters. So you can explore and you can bring in a lot of patterns, and you can bring in keys that match a lot of patterns like this. I hope you all have understood what you have seen with patterns and keys. Let's take a look at the next concept in Redis, lists. What is a list? A list is nothing but a list of strings. For instance, let's take a list of strings. Let's talk about apples. Let's take oranges, and let's take mangoes. So you have a list of strings here. That becomes the list data structure. When you say a list, it's a linked list. So what you have is you have an head pointer that is pointing to. So you can also think about a tail. Just for understanding, let me say this is the tail of my list. The very, very important thing is the insertion order is maintained in a list. Let's talk about the commands now. Lpush. Say, what is lpush? Lpush will start inserting the elements from the head of the list. For instance, lpush, I'll just give the name. Let us consider the name to my list is fruits, and then if I say lpush fruits banana. So what it does, it goes to the head and then it inserts banana here. Okay. Now you might have considered what is rpush. Rpush will do the insertion from the tail end. So if I say rpush fruits, and then let me insert apple. So what it does, rpush, what it does, it goes to the tail and then it inserts apple here. So lpush will insert from the head region, whereas rpush will insert from the tail region. Let's go and push some strings into our list by name fruits. Let me show a demo of that. Lpush list name and then mango. Next, let me use lpush again, give the list name fruits and then oranges. So oranges will be inserted before mango starting from the head. And then let me use lpush again, give the list name fruits and then apples. Apples will be inserted before oranges in the list. Now let me use R push. Let me insert apples after mango. So let's do R push. Let me insert that in the list. So we have apples, oranges and mangoes. Let me insert apples after mango here. Okay, so we have 4 items in our list. Let's take a look at the next command, lrange. Let me explain that with an example here. What is the use of lrange? Let me go to a white screen. So let us consider this list. Say we have apples, oranges, mangoes, and then apples. So we have a list of items, and lists, the items here have an index. Each item has an index. The index starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. The index for apples is 0, index for oranges is 1, index for mangoes is 2, index for apples is 3. So a list there has an index. So when I want to print all the items starting from 0 to 3, I'll use the command lrange, and then I'll give the name of the list fruits, and then I'll give 0 and the ending index 3. So it'll start from 0, it'll go and print all the items till 3. So it'll print apples, oranges, mangoes and apples. So lrange is used for printing a range of items from your list. Let's go and try this one. So lrange, the name of the list, starting index 0, ending index 3. So you see here we have apples, oranges, mango and apples. Suppose if I give this lrange fruits, and if I just give 0 and ending index to be 7, we have just 4 items, but still I'm giving 7, but still it prints only those 4 items in the list. So lrange is for returning a specified number of elements from the list. We all know what is pop from the stack data structure, right? So what is pop? Pop will pop an element from the list. So we have lpop and rpop. By this time you would have guessed it, right? What is lpop? So if you take a look at this, it will go to the head and then it will delete the element, first element in the list. What is rpop? Rpop will go to the tail and then it will return the first element. Say apple is the first element, it will return that, and it will also remove that element from the list. So pop is used for returning that element and also removing that element from the list. So what is lpop? Say if I give lpop fruits, if I give the list name, it's going to go to the head. Whatever item that is coming in the first will be deleted and returned to the user. So when I do lpop fruits, what's going to do? It's going to go from the head, remove apples from my list. So if I go and again print it, lrange fruits, I just give 0 to 3, you can see here apples got removed because I used lpop. What is there in my list right now? We have oranges, mango and apples. When I do rpop, what's going to do? Apples will be deleted and returned to the user. So let's do rpop fruits. That's it. So apples got deleted and returned. Let's look at what is there in our list. 0 and 3. So we have only oranges and mangoes written. So that is the use of lpop and rpop in Redis lists. Let's look at some more commands in Redis. length is used for returning the number of elements in a list. So how many elements we have here? 2 elements. So we can use len and then give the name of the list. So it's going to give me 2 because I have 2 items in the list. So now let us quickly move on to the next thing, lset. What lset does is it sets the list element at index to another element. For instance, when I do lset, I give the list name and then I go to index 0 and change it to apples, it's going to go and change whatever value at index 0 to this particular value. Let me go and show a demo of this. So let me go to index 0, that is oranges, and change it to apples. So I can do else set, give the list name, and then the index is 0, change it to apples. So now when I do L range 0 to 1, okay, I made a mistake here. It is L range, I should give the name of the list 01. So now you see the very first item at index 0 was set as apples. That is the use of L set. Go to an index and set a new value for that particular index. L remove is quite interesting. Let me consider a list here. Say I have apples, again apples, and then mangoes, and then again a mango, and then again a mango. Let me consider a list having items like this. So let's look at how LRemove works. LRemove takes these arguments. So when I give LREM, I should give the name of the list. So consider this to be the fruits list. And then I should be giving the number of items that should be removed. So here 2. When it is a positive count here, it means you start from the beginning and remove the items. What items to remove? So if I give apples, so you match apples and remove 2 apples from the beginning of the list. So when this count is positive, it goes to the beginning and then it deletes, removes these 2 apples. On the other way around, if I just give LREM fruits, if I give that count to be negative -2 and then say mangoes. So when it is a -2, it means the search will happen from the rear end. And then how many mangoes should be removed? 2. So this one will be removed, this one will be removed. So when the count is in positive, from the start it will search and then it will remove those number of items that match the count. When the count is negative, it will start from the rear end and it will remove those number of items that match the count. Suppose if LREM fruits and then here the count is 0 and then I say mango. So what it's going to do is it's going to remove all the mangoes from my list. It's not going to worry about the front or the back. It's going to remove all the elements that match the element mango. Okay, let's go and take a demo of this. Let me create another list here. Let us, instead of calling fruits, I'll just say it is fruit. Let's create this, or else let me go and delete the fruits list. We get delete the fruit list, so we don't have anything in the fruits list. Okay, let me go and create this fruit list. Let me go and create the fruits list with apples, apples, mango, mango, and mango. Let me go and just start with mango. I'll push fruits, mango, and then let me again push mango, mango, and then let me push and apples, and let me push apples. So what is there? I have 5 items in my list, fruits. Let me just go and show you. L range fruits 0, 4. Okay, I should not have the comma here. So you have apples, apples, mango, mango, and mango. So we have created this particular list that we have seen. We have created that. Now let's go and try all these commands. So remove from fruits 2 counts of apples. So what it's going to do is it's going to start removing 2 apples from the head. So Now let me go and do L range fruits 0 4. You can see the two apples from the head region was removed. If I give lrem fruits, the count is -2 mango. So what -2 denotes, go from the rear, remove 2 counts of mango. So the number given here will be the number of items removed. So since negative, it's going to do from the rear end of the list. L range fruits 0, L range fruits. So you just have one mango in your list. Is it fine? Is that fine? Let me again push some more mango here and push fruits mango. So now let me show you the list that we have created. L range fruits 0 2. What will happen if I give this command lrem fruits, and then I'm just going to give 0 and then say mango. Since I have given 0, it's not going to worry about the head or the tail. It's going to match mango and remove all the mangoes from the list. So let's go and, so it removed 3 items. Let me do a L range and then fruits, and then if I give 0, 1, okay, that's a spelling mistake. L range fruits 0 1. So empty list. All the mangoes got removed from the list. What L index does is, say you have apples, oranges and mango in my list. So you have 0 1 and 2. So I can use L index, give the list name fruits, and then I give the index 0. So what it does, it goes to index 0, displays apples. So using the index, you can retrieve the value or the item in that particular location in the list. Since our fruits list is empty, let me go and push some items here. So let's do L push fruits and then mango. Again, let me push L push fruits apples, L push fruits oranges. So I have pushed 3 items in the list. Let's take a look at that. L range fruits 0 2. So you have 3 items. Suppose I want to display the item in index 1, because index starts from 0. This is index 0, index 1, index 2. I have to use this command L index fruits, and then if I give index 1, what will be printed? Apples will be printed or returned. If I just do L index fruits and give 0, oranges will be returned. So these are some of the commands. We have not covered every commands and lists. I've taken as many commands as possible from the website, and I've given you an explanation for all these commands with examples, and this is a pretty simple database. I hope you have understood how we use Redis commands on lists and the importance of lists and Redis. Thank you.